Good morning. So until now we have discussed the mitzvah of Peru Urbu, how it is fulfilled, and the correct age of marriage for men and for women. And we now want to move on to the second aspect of this mitzvah. So we have established already that the mitzvah from the Torah, which HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave, is to be fruitful and to multiply, which means to have a minimum of one boy and one girl. This is how the halacha accords. It means to have one male and one female. Nonetheless, there is a lower level mitzvah, which the Hachamim in the Gemara explain is deduced from the pasuk in Yeshaya, Lo letohu bera'ah ki im neshevet yitzarah. Kadosh Baruch Hu did not create the world to be void, but to be populated. And the Hachamim said that even if a person has had children and has had a boy and a girl, nonetheless one should continue to procreate, one should continue to bring children into the world. Even if you have planted in the morning, continue to do so in the evening, being a metaphor for even if a person has had children at a relatively young age and has a boy and a girl and fulfilled the mitzvah, there is nonetheless an additional mitzvah to continue to bring children into the world. And we have to, of course, explain what that means. But before that, what's the reason for this mitzvah? So there are two reasons. The reason given in the Gemara is simply because you never know what will happen with the children. If one has a minimum of one boy and one girl, and you never know what's going to happen with them. Will they continue the parents' family line? Will they be fertile? Of course, death in those days was common at a young age. And so, as we have explained last week, that if a person has a boy and a girl and one of them dies, they haven't fulfilled the mitzvah of Peru Urbu. And so the Hachamim were concerned that because death was far more common than it is today, a person should continue to engage to have children and populate the world, in order that even if one of one's children pass away in their lives, bar minan, which was relatively and fairly common in those days, one will continue to have other children. So that's one reason given, because to continue to have children, because you don't know whether all of one's children will survive. But the Rambam, when he codifies this halakha, and he writes that there is, although a person has fulfilled the mitzvah of Peru Urbu, one should still continue to bring children into the world. He doesn't give that reason, and he gives a different reason. He says, when the more children you bring into the world, the more individual universes one is creating. Every human being is a world. And so the Rambam is saying that even leaving aside the idea that you never know whether one's children will survive them or not, nonetheless, the idea of Peru Urvu having one boy and one girl is the bare minimum. But of course, the more children a person brings into the world, the greater the mitzvah is. And the Torah, when it said one boy and one girl, that was the bare minimum. But of course, the more a person has. And so the Rambam is saying, leaving aside, and this would apply even nowadays, where it's very rare for children to die in the parent's lifetime, still there is a mitzvah to bring more children into the world. And so these are two independent mitzvah reasons for this mitzvah to bring additional children into the world. But of course, it's a lower level mitzvah than the mitzvah of Peru, which is why, even though we learned that in principle, Beddin, according to the Shulchan Aruch, could force someone to get married to fulfill the mitzvah Peru, the Rishonim write that wouldn't apply to the secondary mitzvah of Shevet. Similarly, the Halacha provides, the Ramah writes this, that if a person has had a wife and had children, a boy and a girl with her, and he's concerned that if he marries a woman who's able to bring children, then that may cause fights between the children of his first marriage and the children of second marriage, and he's allowed to marry a lady who's older and can't have children, or a woman who's just infertile, because this is a lower level mitzvah and doesn't have the same degree of obligation as Peru. We need to understand a number of things with regards to this mitzvah. Firstly, is there any limit? Is there any extent to this? Does this mean one has to go on, continue having more and more children? Does this apply to women? And so on and so forth. B'ezrat Hashem, which we will develop.